Carbon neutrality itself is somewhat of a difficult concept for many people. Basically, it's about making sure that the emissions that we have on one side are not greater than the amount of carbon that we're able to absorb from the atmosphere. So it's about having a net zero carbon footprint. And that absorption happens through something that we call carbon sinks, which is a system that is able to absorb more carbon than it emits. Now the problem is that carbon sinks, we don't know how to make them artificially. So currently we depend on natural carbon sinks, and the main natural carbon sinks in the world are oceans, forests, and soils. This is one of the reasons why agriculture, forests, and land use are so critical to achieving climate action. Just looking at the emissions that come from soils, if we were able to restore soils effectively, we could actually absorb 100% of the emissions that came out in 2018 from the atmosphere. If we're able to restore forests globally, we can reduce emissions by 10%. So those are significant numbers. And basically what we're talking about when we describe neutrality, it really is comprised of 3 steps. The first is to estimate how much is actually being emitted so that we can also estimate and measure how much we need to sequester. The second part is about reducing the emissions, and this is where the actions that I just described can help. And it's a real challenge because we know that the world's population will be increasing to 2050, and that will require an increase in food production by approximately 49%. It's a significant increase. The third area has to do with compensation. So coming up with a system of carbon credit compensation that allows for those who are unable to avoid emissions to be able to offset it somewhere else. Now, what is the real value of carbon neutrality? Climate change is the single biggest threat to humanity and to our planet today. And its impacts are so widespread and so devastating, particularly to the poorest and most vulnerable in the world. So action is absolutely integral to achieving all of the Sustainable Development Goals. We will not be able to do so without addressing climate action, and we will not be able to do so in a way that ensures that we leave no one behind. Those things are inextricably interlinked. So the fact that here in COP and in the UNFCCC, there is a reinforced commitment towards reaching carbon neutrality and attempting to decarbonize the economy and society is a really important step, because it helps us to see who are the champions and who are the people who are willing to put forward the political and economic commitments to make it happen.